Color Scheme. I don't know what episode we at now, but we are live and going well. We are weeks, months still into the pandemic.
We're in it. We are in it.
This is the perfect way to open. We can just keep opening and talking about the pandemic because it just stays relevant.
It's still hot. It's relevant. It's happening. We're
it stays
in
relevant.
it. Yeah.
I think one of the topics we talked about last time on one of our most recent episodes was how unemployment is shooting up.
Right.
And when I think about unemployment shooting up, I also think about a lot more people becoming entrepreneurs. Right. Because if there's no job market,
creative juices flow.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like with no job market, like people gotta figure something out.
It's true. And it's interesting because now is the time that some of those burning ideas that people have had for some time, they're trying to figure out how to put them to use. And I think it's a great time, one, because it could potentially generate income. Yeah. But two, it kind of breaks the monotony of unrest that people already have kind of had, where they don't want to be in the jobs that they've been in for some time, and they want to seek their passions and really fulfill some of those things that they want to do.
It's also like, what do I have to lose? I work with students at Georgetown Business School all the time. They have all these great ideas. Yeah. And I haven't worked with like a lot of adults, but people come to me and ask me about starting a business all the time, and I'm like, this is the playbook or where you should really start, right? And it always comes down to identifying your market, right? Mm-hmm. So often when we think about being an entrepreneur and starting new businesses, we always we think our ideas are so great, or the product or service we want to provide, like it's needed. But what a lot of people don't realize is it's not what you want to sell someone, it's what someone's willing to buy.
That's true. Right? So when you say identify your market, I think about what problem do you want to solve? Yeah. So it's who would want to buy whatever it is that you want to sell and provide, but what actual problem do you want to solve? Like how does it help people? How does it provide something that people don't have? How does it enhance something that they have already? Like you have to not just, like you said, think about, I have this cool thing that I like to do, or this cool thing I want to do. How does it solve a problem? Like you have to think about the business in it. What problem does it solve? So
often people are too nervous to ask questions, right? Like you have to get out there and ask people, is this something you would buy? Yep. Right? And like you start that by asking friends, asking family members, people who are close to you, like I'm thinking about this idea. Like that's literally the first step. Yep. Like you got this idea, now go see if people want it.
Right. So when you think about when you as an entrepreneur and starting your business with your co-founders and other businesses that you've thought about, how did you think about that? Like what was your steps that you took when you said, I want to do this thing? How did you go about seeing if people were interested?
So when we first started our organization, we actually started our consulting firm first.
Right.
So we didn't even start the nonprofit first. Like right now, like the nonprofit is what gets all the attention. Right. But first we were like, we're gonna start a consulting firm, and that's because when we met Frank, and he took us around, we met all these successful people, and we were talking to them about problems in the communities that we come from. Again, going back to identifying problems, one of the things we realized is that there's so many organizations and corporations out there that don't know how to be in touch with the community.
Right.
And so we wanted to start an organization to say, hey, we're going to help you bridge that gap. And it's funny because even though that was 4 years ago, that is so applicable now as we look at all of these social movements, right? And like the Black Lives Matter movement and companies wanting to, create racial equity and help, create change.
Yeah.
But they still don't know how to do it. They still don't know how to do it. And what's going to happen is you have all these large corporations that are going to be paying, these large PR firms and these large consulting firms to do some of the work they want to do.
Services.
Yeah, and they probably still don't even really know.
Yep.
And so when it came down to us figuring out what we wanted to do, we identified that problem. We saw corporations and large companies aren't in touch with the community. We're from the community. We're Georgetown educated. Yep. Like we can help you do that.
Yep.
Right. And so when people right now think about, the pandemic and not having jobs, it really comes down to thinking about what do people want to buy or what service do they need? Like what do people need? Yep. And there's a lot of things that people need right now. Yeah. And unfortunately, it can't be the obvious ones, right? Like when COVID first hit, everyone was about to start trying to sell masks. Yeah. But if we all trying to sell masks, then like a lot of us aren't going to be saturated. A lot of us are not going to be successful.
That's
with that, right.
That's right.
And so identifying your market. It's, figuring out your MVP, which is your minimum viable product. Right. And when people, that term is kind of confusing in a lot of ways, but minimum viable product means what is like the bare minimum,
basic
the most basic service you can provide. And then being able to enhance and improve that. Right. And so it's funny because we actually, back in 2016, we won Georgetown Startup Lawyers pitch competition. We won the MVP award, the minimum viable product award, which is really dope because there was a lot of great entrepreneurs and a lot of great businesses that were coming out. So
some of I know you work with a lot of young people that are starting businesses and have ideas. When we think about, I think everybody kind of knows when you have that spark and you have that concept, you know what it is that you want to sell. You may have to do a little work to identify the market and who would actually want to buy your product or service. But there's a number of impediments and kind of things that kind of get in their way. What are some of the stuff, some of the things that you see when you're advising entrepreneurs on how to take that first step? What are some of the things that, become hurdles for them that...
The biggest hurdle that I've seen is people creating barriers for themselves. Right? Like when you're first stepping into that entrepreneurial landscape, you're going to have a lot of people, as you kind of try to figure out what your market is, there's going to be a lot of people that say, I don't know about that. Or, and that's not going to work,
too.
Right? And it's easy for you to get discouraged on your own because it's already a fearful process of trying to start a business. And so that's the first hurdle. Like if you really want to start a business, you gotta, it's a numbers game. You gotta talk to as many people as you can and figure out if it's something that's going to work. And then you got to continue to work on it. Daily. And
I know, like for me, so I've been working for companies for a long time, but one of the things that I wanted to do many years ago is I wanted to be a professor at a college. I wanted to do it as an adjunct. I knew it wasn't my goal to be a tenured professor. I always wanted to kind of do it and, kind of do it my way, do it when I wanted to do, if I wanted one class or two classes a semester, I wanted to kind of do it how I wanted at multiple schools and that kind of thing. And so I decided that I wanted to be an independent consultant in that way. But what was kind of getting in my way along the way was, I still have this day job. I still have other responsibilities. When am I going to have the time? Oh, by the way, I don't have a PhD. They're going to say, no, you don't have a PhD. You're not going to be able to teach. And then after years of kind of sorting through that, I said, you know what? The time is now, because I'm deciding that the time is now, and I'm going to make the time and space to be able to do it. But if I keep wondering about whether or not they're going to hire me without a PhD, then I'm never going to get hired. If I don't take the step, I'm never going to get hired. And lo and behold, my years of experience, my credentials that I had and certifications was enough. I think in one of our earlier podcasts, we talked about doing enough and what enough means. Do not let yourself get discouraged. Like you said, you're going to have the naysayers, you're going to have the people that say, I don't know about that. And sometimes it's good input because you can take that back and you can refine what your approach is and you can refine what you want to do. But you have to take the step. You have to say, I'm going to put myself out there and just try. And sometimes that means offering some services for free, at the onset, just to kind of see what kind of reaction you're going to get. And for me, it was applying at a school. I said, let me start at, where I got my graduate degree, which at the time was University of Maryland University College. They've since rebranded to UMGC Global Campus, but I applied there first because I said, let me, they'll see I got my degree from this particular place, and here, here's an added credential that I have, and I have these years of experience. Let me just take a shot. Hire me on the spot. Like I just went in and I talked to them and I said, here's when I can do it. Hire me on the spot. Wow. So all I had to, you didn't know that because that's how it happened. Like I literally went in. It was almost like I went in and he already knew he wanted to hire me because they had a need. They needed some additional professors with, senior credentials and had been in cybersecurity for many years. And all I had to do was walk in and he just wanted to talk to me and, kind of gauge my interest. And he's like, so we can staff you at the next semester. We just have to put an agreement in place. So did you have to create like a syllabus first? No. All I had to do was, I came in, of course, as me and gave him some more insight on my credentials. But he provided me some information about the types of needs they have for the particular classes. And I said, well, these 4 look good. I'd love to teach either of these. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to also doing your research and getting the background information you need
to apply that. And when we look at, any type of business, and specifically you see this with like apps, right? Like when someone's building an app, they always create like a beta version, like a small version, like a small sample size that you test, right? And that's the same thing when you're starting a new idea or product or providing a product or service. You start with a small sample size to kind of get feedback. You want customer feedback, right? Like you want your early adopters, like with any company that you're starting, to give you feedback so that you can refine, you can make it better. Yeah. And, that's across the board.
Yep.
That's
really and like you said, when you said, talk to family and friends, you can start there, and then you can even go beyond there and survey people, other people you know.
You can send them out online.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of... There are all kinds of ways to get feedback, to find out needs. And that's what a lot of organizations that have been out here for some time that are seasoned, they still do that. Yeah. When they want to revamp their product line or they want to enhance their product offerings, they'll survey people. How does this work for you? If we try it this way, how will this benefit you? They do things like that all the time. Don't forget the fact that whenever you visit a place, a new hotel, when you buy a car, when you do any of these things in our everyday lives, we get surveys. Exactly. Yeah. That's don't get it twisted that those surveys are just because they want to enhance their customer experience.
Or they want you to feel involved. It's because they want to know how to make it better. Exactly. They want to keep you coming back.
They use that to benefit themselves and the company so they can enhance their product offerings, so they can garner new business and get new business. So it's all about marketing, and it's all about their ability to enhance their services that they have. So I think it's a time to really, people have these creative juices flowing. They really need to take a chance and start that blog, reach out to someone about that product or that service that you're interested in. And
you
see
literally
what
just got to start. You just started. You got to start.
You just have to start.
And as you continue to go, you begin to build momentum, right? And you get better and you get better. And another prime example, I'm going to keep coming back to it, like with this podcast, right? Like we started like, let's try it out. Let's do a little pilot. Right. A pilot turned into another episode, and then another episode, which turned into weekly meetings. We started turning into creating templates. We turned into doing market research,
us having,
micro content,
valid ideas, right? And discussion topics
and
every week.
It just really kind of exploding. Yep. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people that haven't started businesses, they don't realize that, once you get started, your momentum just kind of picks up and it keeps growing. Yep. And it in a way, it invigorates you, and
the other thing, even turning it back into the podcast topic, someone would say another podcast. There's a number of podcasts out there. Like, why would mine be different? Hey, mother and son, who has that? Who has that to offer?
What you just said though is the prime point. Like, how do you make something different and unique? Because there are tons of podcasts out there, right? And I'm thinking specifically, I'm helping one student that wants to create a cafe, right? Mm-hmm. Like, she wants to have a cafe, but she wants it to be like organic foods, and she wants to have like a bookstore type of feel. Nice. And I'm like, okay, like there's ideas like that, look at like a busboy and poet. Right. So I'm like, that's a great idea, but now you need to think about how do you make that unique?
How do you make yours different?
Like, how do you want your customers to feel? Yeah. Right? What do you want them to experience when they walk into your cafe? Yep. Right? Like, what do you want your customer service to look like? Right? Like, when we think about fast food restaurants, like, in a way, Chick-fil-A kind of revolutionized that in a way, because they set a bar so high. When it comes to my pleasure.
Oh my goodness, the customer service.
The customer service. They were like, this is the one thing we're going to be better than everyone else. Because we know
how we want people to feel when they come to this place.
Exactly. And so that's how you make your business unique. And I remember I was, I used to intern at APCO. And when I was there, one of my supervisors, like one of my senior executive supervisors, she left. I met with her probably a couple months ago, somewhat last year. And I was talking to her about, business and how to make your company special. And I forgot what book she was referencing, but she was saying that very often, like, you'll see the best companies focus on what they want to be good at and not what they're bad at, right? And she was, I think she used the example of banks. Yeah. She was like, some banks are going to say, I'm going to be really great at customer service, and that's what my customers are going to like. Yep. Other banks may be like, we gonna customer service is okay. We'll be mediocre in customer service, but you'll get the best rates. You won't get overdraft fees, and you'll have special products or our platform is going to be the best, right? And it's really determining what is it you really want to be good at, and then focusing there, and then the rest will kind of come together. Right. So,
that's good. It's excellent advice.
So when I think about people trying to start new businesses right now, my one advice, my couple of advices would be, my few advices would be, just start. Right.
Put one foot in front of the other.
Don't be too worried about making it perfect. Right. Like, just keep building, and that'll come. And don't let the naysayers keep you back.
Right. And actually, and don't let them keep you back, and use what they say to fuel you. Use what they say to help you be even more productive in your quest for success. Let them use that as fuel.
So something a lot about, I would say, is managing people, right? Like, we've talked a lot about managing people and company culture and things of that nature. When I think about another major component of someone starting a business, it's like building the right pieces around you. Right? Like, and finding the right people. And very often, like, we're not going to just say, oh, let me go find 4 co-founders. Right? Like, that's not usually how it works. But understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then saying, hey, I know I'm not the best at this. Let me find someone that is really good at this. And like, meshing those two together is super, super impactful with really trying to get it going.
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting because I can apply that to I haven't been in the entrepreneurial space as much and as long as I'd like to. There are a number of things that I want to do that I haven't been able to accomplish yet. But just from an employer to an employee perspective, when I've worked a number of projects and had a number of contracts that had, a task lead, a task manager, different levels of people. But whenever we would get a contract with the various firms that I work with, if we were successful in getting a contract and we had a program manager, the program manager's job is to staff it and to get the right people. And so one thing that made me successful as a consultant was I was always there when, the contract was let. Someone would call me up and say, Kenice, I'd love you to support us in this because you have these skills, these qualifications. They might suck in the management part. They might suck in the budget parts, and there are different places that they weren't good at, but they would call me to fill in some of those gaps. I've always done the same thing too. If I'm running a project and I'm running a team, I think about, what else do I need? How do I need other people to be, kind of around me to support me and fill in some of those areas that I might not be so good at. But before you can even do that, you have to recognize your flaws.
Yeah,
you have to recognize where you're not good.
You have to look in the mirror
and
have an honest conversation with yourself.
Look in the mirror
and say, I'm not that good at this.
And so I think sometimes when people are thinking about starting businesses, they might get overwhelmed with, the fact that they don't necessarily know how to get contracts.
The learning curve.
They don't,
like feeling like the learning curve is too steep or too high for them to kind of accomplish what they want.
But that's why you go out and you talk to people. And sometimes people find themselves talking to their immediate family. They start talking to people that they know, care about, love, and trust to find out if the right approach is to gravitate to some of the people that they know that are close to them to figure out if it makes sense to.
My dad always told me doing business with family is bad.
So, but why? Why do you say that? Why do you say that? Because I think there's some truth to that for sure. But why does he think that?
It's a slippery slope, I would say, and this is more. I can't remember all the conversations because I was much younger when we used to say this all the time. But I think one of the difficult components is, or people who haven't been in business with family or close friends. Very often you think, oh, no, it should be good because you can have very genuine and honest conversations. But that's actually opposite. Right? Like when you're in business with family and really close friends, like you tend to you may have really honest conversations, but at the same time, you also begin to kind of coddle one another in a way.
Right. And I think, in business, in any kind of business, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, accountability is key. Accountability is extremely important. Your accountability to your staff and your employees, your accountability to your business partners, your accountability to your customer base, or whomever it might be. And sometimes it's a slippery slope when you're working with family who could be like, I know I'm supposed to do that, but I have this going on. I have to pick up the kids. And I have to do this. And I have these financial obligations. And that's where it gets sticky because really, when you think about in business, like I said, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you don't necessarily need to get too personal with people in order to get the job done. So what people do in their personal lives, it might not be your business, right? When they have to,
and those lines start to get blurred.
They do when you're dealing with family.
The lines get blurred.
And you do that happens more so, often than not when you're dealing with family, because you already know what some of the situations are. Sometimes those can be taken advantage of, and sometimes it just becomes a little sticky. But on the flip side of that, you may find that in starting out a business, you might need the help of people that you might not necessarily have to pay and support in the same way that you would have to do strangers. Strangers want a certain amount of money, they want benefits, they want all these different things. And in starting
But that's not too bad though, because if you have those expectations are there and you're having those conversations on the onset, then it makes it a lot easier versus working with family and then y'all haven't talked about percentages. Like it's your idea, you started it, you don't really want to say half.
But
you having
the conversation
signing the paper feels a little weird.
Right. I agree with you, but having the conversation versus having the means to provide that. So yeah, we can have the conversation about benefits and salary and do that at the onset. Mm-hmm. But if you're just starting a business, you might not have that. You may not have the money or the infrastructure to do the things that you want to do. So right now it's just talk. So you don't have anything to really back it up necessarily. But if when you're dealing with family, you may be able to bypass some of those things, and there's a good and a bad in that, but you might be able to bypass some of those conversations to get to work. But I think it's important to keep in mind that you could frame it so that your family is helping you out on a temporary basis. Yeah. Like that probably is the right conversation to have up front. I'm trying to do this business.
It comes down to transparency. Like when you're starting a business, you have to be transparent from the beginning. And that goes back to the integrity piece, because if you're transparent from the beginning, like, hey, I just need some help, or like
this is for a short duration of time.
I'm trying to run this idea past you, or do you mind brainstorming with me, and not making someone feel like all of a sudden clear. Like we're partners, like, but it's like no, I'm just
having those expectations clear and being transparent, like you said, I think is key.
It's having tough conversations. I think that's probably one of the harder parts about starting
like
a business
said,
with family and friends.
It makes it a lot easier so that there's no guesswork later on, where everybody kind of understands where they stand in this business.
And then also understanding like there's resources, at your disposal online, to kind of get that same type of support and help, right?
That's true.
And if you look into like accelerator spaces and incubators and things like that, you begin to find people with like minds that are also trying to be entrepreneurial, where there's a blend.
And a lot of those resources are free. Yeah. So I know in another episode that we talked about, the different sets of money that's available now because of COVID-19 that businesses receive. There are a lot of free resources for rising entrepreneurs and people that are in business and struggling a little bit now because of the pandemic and other things. All you have to, SCORE, that's one example off the top of my head that you can just Google and get a mentor to kind of help you support whatever your business needs and goals are. But there are a number of avenues like that are free. Yeah. So one of the impediments I know that people have sometimes.
And you can also apply to like fellowships.
Yeah.
And
so don't let the money part stop you in getting help, because there are free resources where if you don't have your immediate friends and your immediate circle to ask those questions about establishing your business and the things that you don't know how to navigate well, there are free resources out there for you. So Google them and find them and start talking to mentors and getting support in that way, so that the financial part is not an impediment for you. So,
you think that's a lot of people's biggest impediment is the financial piece?
I think some of it,
but I would say that's probably again mentally.
I was just going to say
that's like another mental barrier.
It's not the reality part. So it's not the financial piece in reality. It's more, I think it's going to cost this. I don't have the money to do that. My bank account looks, light. How am I going to fund X, Y, Z? It's asking yourself those questions and having that data in your head, but not actually seeing what that looks like by having the conversations that you need. Yeah. So I think some of it is lack of information, and it's kind of bogging yourself down with that rhetoric that you have in your head that doesn't move you forward to
and
action.
That's I haven't heard a lot of people say this, but I would say that you have to create a failure point.
Yeah.
If you create a failure point and say, I'm going to give it this much effort for this number of days or weeks, or I'm going to work on this until I get this many no's, or until I spend this much, like, if you can create, like, this is the point of failure for me, like, and work backwards, then I feel like a lot of people would be more successful with starting businesses. Because if you know, like, at what point you're out, rather than just going and tripping up along the way and wanting to stop, then those are two different dynamics that
I think that's an excellent point. I think it's really about failing forward. You have a plan, you decide how long you want to execute that plan of success, but you know that you might have impediments along the way. As you fail, or as those things are flawed, you fall, you pick yourself back up, you give yourself the next couple of months to refine it. And I think you have to plan around your success. And in planning around your success, you're going to hit some impediments. You're going to fail in some instances in, what you thought your product might be, or how, your customer base might receive it and things like that. But that failure just translates to refinement. And you do that for a period of time until you figure out when it's time to,
And one thing people always say, one thing I've heard a lot is falling forward. Yeah. Right? And ensuring, like, regardless of where you are in the process, like, making sure that you fall forward in a sense that when you do fail, like, you've learned all of these things and you're taking that and you're applying it to whatever you're doing next. Yep. Right. But it comes back down to just not being fearful, getting started, and then falling forward if you're gonna fall.
Yep. Agreed. You just have to make a start. I think that's the thing. Like, don't continue to sit on your couch thinking about what the next thing is that you want to do.
Yeah, you gotta start it. You gotta start it for sure. And I guess one of the keys to that is also, like, the art of the pivot. Yeah. Right? And understanding how, when you do get stuck in one place, like, how do you now maneuver and adjust shift your model or what you're doing so that you are still successful. Yep. Right? Yep. And, very often a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and I think that translates to not just in entrepreneurship, but just in current career fields now. I encounter a number of students, especially at the undergraduate level. A lot of, I think that a lot of the students that I have been in the military or former military, and they have these awesome skills, and they may have been in health IT, or they may have been involved in some other kind of emergency response work, and they say, well, I want a cybersecurity degree, but I don't want to start at the ground floor. What do I do? And so I always say, cybersecurity is not just about information technology. It's about being able to secure across industries. Mm-hmm. So if you've worked in health, or you've worked in emergency response, or you've worked in finance, they all need cybersecurity too. Mm-hmm. How do you take pieces of what you have already and translate that into a career for you so that you're not necessarily starting at the ground floor? Sometimes you might have to take a junior level or entry level job to get that start, depending on the experience that you have and how you're able to translate that into the next field. But I think it's important for anyone that wants to do a career change or a career shift to think about what they already know and think about what they already have and how to refine that, or how to look at that, how that translates to another career field, so that you don't necessarily have to start. Yeah,
you have to leverage where you are to move forward, right? Yeah. Like, how do you leverage X to get the Y? Yeah. Right. I have a friend that is starting a new company, and he identified, one of the dopest companies in the game that essentially does similar things to what he wants to do. And he's like, while I built this, I'll go work there for free. He was like, I'll go intern there. And this is a guy that went to Wharton, super successful career. Right. Now he's, starting something. He wants to go on his own. He's like, you know what? While I build this, I'm also going to try to intern there so I can learn, I can leverage their network, I can see what they're doing, and I could apply that same knowledge, with what I'm doing now. Right. And so it's thinking about now, obviously he has more of the means to kind of make that happen. Yeah. But it's a similar scenario. Yeah. Another situation, I know a lot of recent college grads, there's no job market. We're going to keep saying there's no job market, right? And a lot of them are now finding themselves in a position where they don't the options that are available aren't in the career field that they want, right? And you know what I told one young lady that asked me for advice is, how can you get a job now that's available and use those skills that you will learn in that job to then make a maneuver in 2 years when the market's back, right? Because you're 22, you're 21, right? Like you have time, but if being employed is the most important thing to you right now and making money, then let's get you a job somewhere that, you know, they can allow you to take care of your family, they can allow you to move out, they can still give you skills, and then apply that later, you know, to somewhere else. And if you go into the right field right now, you can be light years ahead of, you know, starting wherever you were. Right? Like she wants to go into social impact and work at a nonprofit. And, you know, nonprofits aren't really hiring right now. Like out of it, a lot of industries hiring, nonprofits aren't really hiring. Right? But I'm like, you know, there's a lot of firms that are hiring, you know, in like financial services, in tech, right? And so like, just because Facebook has a comms department, Facebook has a CSR department, right? Like, so how can we look at some of these industries that you didn't necessarily think about and get you a job that is similar in scope to what you want to do later? Let's start you there, and then we can adjust later when something becomes available.
And I've told people the same thing about the government. So I know, you know, I've talked to a number of people, you know, in that have graduated undergrad and grad degrees, and they're like, I don't want to work for the government. You know, I want this kind of job. Well, that kind of job is not available to you right now. But guess what? The government has a wonderful program called Pathways. It is for recent grads. You know, that is an opportunity for you to get a job. And I think we just have to think bigger. You know, we have to think bigger. So how about now you might be working for an organization that has 90,000 employees, that is, you know, providing services across the country. Those are the kinds of things that you want to be able to say when you go for that job that you really want. I was able to provide services for a multitude of people, divisions, disciplines, and X, Y, and Z. There's, you know, there's so much more that you'll be able to do in having this job that gives you a step, you know, that gives you a step in the right direction.
It's all about being able to get that.
It is, and it's like you have to put it in perspective. You know, because I think one of the most important things, like you said, your friend was able to volunteer. Like you said, a lot of people don't have the means to do that. You know, I know even for me, like there were a number of things that I wanted to do. When I was younger, when I finished school, I wanted to do all kinds of things, but I had a son and I needed a job that was paying. I needed a paying gig. I could not go and volunteer someplace and not have money to support us. But so I had to think about it like, well, where can I do a little bit of both? Where can I enhance my experiences and make money and meet people and, you know, broaden my network and all, you know, kinds of things like that. And so that's how I started working for the government. And when I was working for the government initially, I was working in human resources. Halfway through.
I didn't know that either.
I know you were so young. These are stories that you don't even know about. So when I first started working for the government, it's interesting. I'll give you my quick story. I started working, the first summer I was working in the legal department as an intern for lawyers. After that, I moved into human resources. So I was working in personnel. So I was the face of personnel. So when you apply for a job, you would see me. I'd stamp your job application. I'd give you hope for when you might be able to get hired for that job and some more information about that. And I can route you to your benefits specialist. After doing that for about a year or two, I started doing a little bit of IT things and pulling up
kind
of
like help desk?
Ish for some of the personnel systems, which I found a real interest in. At the time, my major was elementary education. I shifted my major to IT. Yeah, see, you don't even know all this. I was an elementary education major. I shifted to IT, computer information systems, because I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. I initially wanted to do that. And then from there, I was like, wow, how am I going to get into an IT field when I have this personnel experience? Like, how do I translate that in a way that people will understand that I have some IT experience too? So I started using some of the things that I knew about the systems, the personnel systems, because I was able to say, wait, I work in personnel, but I also have IT experiences. And then I moved to the IT department during my internship. And from there, I was able to catapult into consulting and working in cybersecurity and so forth. But I had to you have to think it through. Yeah. You really have to be intentional about thinking it through. Because what I hear from people a lot is, I want to make a career shift and I don't know what to do. I'm like, you okay? So I say, well, what do you do now? And so then they tell me, well, I do this kind of job, but it's not IT. But wait a minute, you just said you provide these services. You just said you have to use a system to do X, Y, and Z. So let's break that apart and figure out what in there is IT-ish. Because that's how you start customizing your approach for selling yourself.
And what can you learn on your own, right? Especially in like IT, there's so many tutorials, YouTube videos, there's online certifications that you can get for free. There's a bunch, like it
is. So you have all
to think
those
outside. You have to think outside of the box.
You
have to think outside of the box.
So I think people have this defeatist attitude where they're like, I can't get a job in this field that I want to move to. But you haven't sold what you already know that gives someone insight on whether or not they would want to hire you. Because you're right. Nobody wants to hire anybody who doesn't have any skills. Yeah. So my answer to them is, you're right. I see why you're not getting hired, because you don't have any skills. Because you're saying that you don't. You know, if we think about what you actually know and what you've been able to do before now, there's some things in there that lends itself to that job. So let's figure out how to do that.
And it comes down to alignment, right?
Yeah.
And that goes back to taking a hard look in the mirror, like centering yourself, understanding what skills you have. And then also, you know, we've talked about this before, but asking people around you, like what skills you have and going from there. Because once you understand the skills you have, what you've learned, and what skills you need to get to that place you want next, that allows you to think outside the box, reframe your approach, and come up with a strategy so that you can attain some of those skills and or maneuver in a way that kind of gets you back there. Yeah. So, you know, ultimately people just need to, like, it also comes down to like having a positive like you gotta your mindset is so very much more than your mindset is think very you are. Important.
Like it's really about, like you said, your mind. Like you are, you know, you have so much more. It takes a lot to be able to get up every day and to do a certain job and provide certain functions. You have to really think about what your value is to your current company and how you can translate that to that next career field that you want.
I think a lot of people don't have jobs right now.
Yeah, so for the people that don't have that, you mean that have never worked? Yeah. I mean, because I know there's a lot of people that are coming out of school that have some. They may not have done internships, but they have, you know, some competencies from school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have that. That's a set, and then you have, you know, folks that haven't worked at all that may need to start at those entry level positions that require minimal skills and things like that. But for the college educated and the ones that are coming out with degrees right now and don't see the job market in a way that translates to what they, you know, wanted to move from their degree into their career field into. You have to think about it differently. Like you said, you might have to take a different type of job to get to that end point. You know, like I said, the government has a wonderful program for not even just degree-seeking students, but students that have actually attained their degrees. Within 2 years, you can work in the Pathways program. You can start in different areas and different functions and move from there and gain some competencies that gives you what you need to maybe move back into that career of choice that you had when you graduated. So I think we just have to think about it differently and talk to people that are where we want to be and may have some insights. I think like you said, you talk to everybody around you, talk to your family members. Talk to, you know, some of these free groups and resources. Google is your friend. Like I'd be Googling away to try to figure out what kinds of things are out there now. Because, oh, by the way, a lot of new programs have actually started because of COVID-19.
And that's going to continue to happen, you know, especially as we look at like the SBA really trying to. So
just because you looked last month and you looked for a particular type of program, that doesn't mean it's not. Yeah, it's
exactly.
Because new programs are popping up every day.
Get on the phone and call people.
Yeah.
Call and ask.
Yep.
Call the SBA. A lot of these government agencies.
Those numbers are posted. They're publicly available.
Resources. Call people in the field that you want to work in. And start asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna keep saying it. Closed mouths don't get fed.
You have to make a start. You have to start someplace.
And it comes down to, and then ultimately, I would say, leveraging the network you have.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like, how can you use the network you have to extrapolate what you need from it, right?
It's interesting now too, because, you know, I totally believe in networking and You know, it's if I hadn't had a great network, I wouldn't be where I am today. But one of the things that's been really interesting, I know, you know, most people are familiar with, I think everybody's pretty familiar with LinkedIn as a business platform, a social media business platform. But it's been interesting. I've had more people reaching out to me now to network than ever before.
Because of COVID, like during this.
It has to be
time?
because of COVID, because people are, I think, so a number of different things I think are happening. One, people are home and they have they have a different environment in which to think. So they're like, I'm thinking about something different. Let me connect with people. So they've been seeking people out in different in disciplines that are similar to what they're interested in. So they're looking for cybersecurity people, or they're looking for IT people. But also businesses have been contacting me wanting to, hey, we want to pick your brain about, we saw that you used to work for IRS. We want to pick your brain about IRS services, or we saw that you've done this in the past.
So literally people just hitting you up to
they are just blindly reaching out to me on so many different fronts.
Are you talking to them?
Some of them I have been. Some of them I'm like, what's in it for me? Like, I need to,
yeah.
We have to think about this as a bi-directional need. I am not going to feed someone else's interest if I'm not getting something from it.
Are you charging?
Well, I haven't really explored it too much yet. I haven't explored it too much yet, but I will. I haven't explored too many of the businesses yet, but for the individuals, and I'll put, I'll highlight one of the students I had that I thought this was really interesting. So someone emailed me several months ago and said, just on LinkedIn, not emailed me, sent me a private message on LinkedIn and said, hey, I saw your profile. My name is so-and-so. I'm a rising student. I'm interested in connecting with you because your profile looks like this is impressive to me. I just want to get to know you and find out about your career. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So, okay. So I responded, and we, had a couple of chats where he just asked for advice. I'm thinking about this time for certification. Do you recommend this? I'm thinking about going this path. Do you recommend this? And he asked me some questions about his graduate degree, like where should I go? I'm trying to, I'm thinking about what I should pursue. He's in my class. So, he said, you know what, I'm getting the information that I need so I can figure out where I should go to school, so I can figure out what I should do to enhance my academic, base and my career. And this person seems like they might know what they're talking about, so let me ask away. Just blindly did it, and I helped them because why not?
Yeah, and it's the same approach that students should be taking when they're first trying to find a job. Like there's nothing more powerful, at least in my mind, when you're trying to get your first job out of college than doing informational interviews. Like I used to do informational interviews all the time.
Yes, you did.
All the time, right?
You did.
And so, like, that's that same concept.
Yes.
You probably wouldn't call that, and you wouldn't call it
that
is,
in
but it's
the same
similar.
thing. Yeah.
I don't know if you would call it that, in the professional world now. Like, is it considered an informational interview?
Yes, it still is.
Well, then that's what people need to do.
Yep. I'm so glad you brought that up because I think people don't think about that. Yeah. They don't think about talking to someone for their own good and their purposes and getting insights from people and how that might help them, in their career or in school or whatever it is that they want to do. But it's so interesting that people that are successful oftentimes would love to give back and give you information. Yeah. They love to talk about themselves.
Especially
they love to talk about their career path. I think it's almost commonplace. They have no problems with doing it for the most part. The challenge for them is finding the time. But I found so many times that people have reached out to me. I might have been swamped with I don't know how many different things going on, but I take the time, even if it's to respond back via email or chat or to set up a quick call. I've done this several times, and I know I'm not the only person that does it because, like you said, you went on so many information interviews, and a lot of those people were people that I knew. I said, hey, my son is getting ready to graduate. He wants to know about this. They all made time. And so people will make time. If you reach out to them, I think it's like you said, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, but you have to be bold. You have to be brave. What's the worst that's going to happen? You'll hear no, then you go to the next person. And if you're smart about networking on LinkedIn, you're connecting with people that have information or have something that you want. Maybe it's you want just a connection to find out more about the business that they're in. Maybe it's like the gentleman that I mentioned. He knew I was an instructor, so he said I want to be in her class at some point.
It's like taking that new rapper approach.
Yeah.
When an artist first comes out, you'll see them on the street handing out CDs, handing out CDs, right?
Yep.
And You know, I've seen videos, even like Gary Vee has said it, where he's like, you know, you need to be DMing people every day.
Right.
Like all day, messaging people. Yep. So especially if you're not employed, right? Like hit people up. Like set a goal for yourself. I'm going to contact 20 people a day.
Yep.
And like.
And do it.
And just 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 do it, because the more people you talk to, that'll help you. Even if you don't get, even if someone doesn't tell you the clarity you need, like you having those conversations will allow you to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Like
it'll help you.
You know, I've thought a lot about, you know, starting new companies and different things I want to do. And as of recent, I've talked to a lot of people, you know, about like different, you know, the way the market is, the way the economy is, and ways to kind of leverage what's going on to create something that's amazing. And it like everyone hasn't given me, you know, the best advice, but you know what I will get is I shouldn't do that. Right. I shouldn't do that. Right. I shouldn't do that. Right. Yep. And even learning from that perspective, saying, that's not something you cross it out your list.
Yep.
Right. And so, you know, you really just got to get out there. You got to put yourself out there.
Yep.
And the best place to start is your network.
Yeah.
Friends, family. If you're in a position where, you know, you don't think your family members or your immediate family members, you know, gives you the access you need to like talk to people in the industry, then hit random people up, right? Like look at
like they do me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Look people up on LinkedIn. Look at agencies and companies that, you know, do something similar to what you're thinking about, and just start pinging people.
Yep, send emails.
Start pinging people. The worst is, other than maybe getting cursed out, but nobody's gonna just curse you out.
They're not gonna just do that.
But they probably just won't respond.
Right.
Which isn't that.
They won't respond. You'll get a no, or that's the worst that could happen, and then you move on to the next person.
But it's so necessary to put yourself out there, and it's so necessary to just start taking one step at a time and putting one foot forward.
Yeah,
because until you start, you'll never know how to finish.
Yeah, you won't know how far you'll be able to go.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great time to increase your network and reach out to people that are doing something that you're interested in. It's a great time for it.
So if someone is trying to, let's say someone isn't employed, right? Like to stay with the same
bug. It's a net.
A little something. I don't know. I saw it. It was taking my eye. But let's say somebody, you know, doesn't have a large network or isn't getting, you know, the success they need from talking to people.
Yeah.
You know what you got? You got YouTube videos.
You do.
You got books.
You do. You do.
You know?
I mean, I think, you know, some people are really big into the whole video world of YouTube.
You've never been a video person?
I've never been a video person. I'm still so old school. Give me a book. I'll read a book. I'll read a book in an hour. I'll read a book in a day. I'll get it done, and I'll have so much information to go from there. But some people, you know, these 5, 10, 15-minute videos, they serve the purpose that, you know, where people can learn something really fast and apply it. Give me an old school book any day. I'll read a book and figure it out from there. So, but the point is, you have books, you have videos, you have quick ebooks, so you don't even have to read a, you know, 150, 200-page book.
What's it called? Maybe Blink.
I don't know that one.
I think it's Blinks or something like that.
I don't know that.
But it's essentially a platform that sums up books for you. It's almost like I haven't heard Cliff
of that
Notes,
one.
But essentially gives you like the major points or the major takeaways from a book.
I haven't heard of that one.
You know, a mentor of mine told me about it. He was like, yeah, I go through books, you know, like this now because I just get this app and I read through it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got that. Take my notes and I keep it moving. You know, so people who don't have time can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I haven't done? I have not started. I still have yet to listen to one audiobook ever. I know you listen to audiobooks.
Let me tell you, I don't listen to them casually in the house, but audiobooks are so wonderful for long drives. So whenever I would go to football games and places where, you know, I might be visiting you, or especially for games, some of those, you know, longer, you know, 3-hour games or so far away, I would listen to audio. I love audiobooks. They're so awesome.
I'm an avid multitasker. So if I were to put on the audiobook, I would be doing something else and I would be missing key points. So I have to read it myself.
Yeah.
I have to read it myself.
Yeah, I get that, but it's kind of like the podcast concept. You're gonna have some people that'll be listening while they're doing other stuff, and some people that will sit and view it.
And so it comes down to just knowing what you need, what works best for you.
How you consume information the best.
Yeah.
I don't want a video. So if I need some instruction on something, I'll read a book.
And I don't want to listen to people talking to me.
So
I prefer to watch like a motivational video.
Yeah.
To like get my wheels churning a little bit.
Well, you have that. I mean, there's so much. There's so much out here, and I think you have to figure out which way you consume information. How do you need it to quickly get you propelled into your start?
And one key thing that people don't realize, it's important to keep in touch with people that are in your life and in your network. That's one thing my dad used to always tell me.
It's so
and would get so
important.
upset with me, like, man, you should be hitting people up.
I have told you that very same thing too. He's probably said it more than me.
But I'm like, I know a lot of people.
You gotta do it though. You have to do it. I still have contacts from every last job I've had.
Do you put them in like? Do you have like lists?
Nope.
So it's not that serious.
I don't have it formalized at all. I just keep it on my mind.
But if you are, keeping up with your network and kind of ensuring that, you stay close to people, even if it's just checking in, like, hey, want to see how you doing, or hey.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
And you know what? Right now is a perfect time to check on people because you have an excuse.
Right,
hey,
and I
know people are getting sick from COVID. I just want to check on you. How are you and your family?
There you go. And see, I'm not as organized with it, but with our cell phones and all these smart devices, you have ways to put people in groups. So you can have your group by your prior mentors, or your group by a particular job you had. You can, do arrange your contacts however you need to, if you need to be that organized. For me, I just think about people. I think about who I haven't talked to. And, I actually just, from one of my jobs when I worked at Health and Human Services, I left there in 2014. Someone I met when I started working there in 2010, I think it was. I hit her up the other day. She was just like, oh my goodness, Kenice. And I was like, I just like you just said, I was thinking about you, wanted to see how you were doing. Come to find out, she's about to start a business. I started telling her about my business ideas, and we just had a whole wonderful conversation. She said, oh, by the way, if you're working on your website, I know WordPress. Do you need some help?
Boom.
But I'm just saying.
Boom.
And we've been talking about that.
I've been talking about that.
She's like, I'm not a pro, but I can help you out if you tell me some things that you need. Just random as part of the conversation. But that's why you keep in touch with people.
Yeah,
you never know what people are doing, and especially if you are, you're a mover and shaker out here. You're trying to figure out your next job. You're trying to figure out your next business. You want to stay on people's minds. Yeah. You want people to be thinking about, what's Daniel doing? Like, I remember he was doing X, Y, and Z.
As they navigate and do things on their own, they'll be like, oh, this is something that can help.
Yep. Let me call him, or let me send this. So. Yeah, I have a lot of people in my life that I stay connected to like that. I always have, though, but that's just something I think that was just something in me that I just always wanted to do. Because, I feel like I'm more of I'm an introvert, so I'm kind of behind the scenes, sometimes, and I want to connect with people in that way. But then I have my extrovert side where I have to be in front of people at, points at work. But when I'm home and I'm in my quiet space, that's when I have my time to think. Who have I not talked to? Who do I need to connect with? Who do I want to talk to and let people know about what I'm doing? And I want to hear about what they're doing. It gives me space and time to do that.
I guess for me, I've in a way, I've felt like it doesn't feel as genuine. So like, what would you say to people who don't feel like it doesn't feel genuine if they're like if I'm reaching out to someone and I know the intent behind me reaching out, like me checking up on you, but like I know, I'm gonna end up asking for something or I need something.
I can tell you because people have done it to me. So one of the worst things I think is when you reach out to somebody and like, how are you? How's your family? How's your kids? How's your life? Oh, by the way, what I really want to know is X, Y, Z. I've had people do that to me, and I'm like, I knew you wanted something. Ask me up front.
Yeah, it's okay. I was going to say that. I ask first.
Go for it.
Because I feel weird. I feel weird, like playing around, like, let me.
Don't do it.
How you doing?
Don't do it. Ask them what you want. Yeah. Hey, haven't talked to you in a while. I wanted to discuss blah 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 with you. Hey, and then if you want to ask about the kids and the dog and their lives afterwards, you can do that if you want. But ask them up front. Don't play those games of, I can't stand when people do that. I can't stand when they do those things. When they do, I'm glad we're the same page. I don't do that either. I'm texting back, you're not about to get anything out of me. You need to come with what you want. So I'll help them. What is it that you wanted?
Yeah, but I will also say you're probably unique in that way. I feel like other people.
I spotted from the beginning.
I feel like other people will respond. Like most people that are nice will respond.
Oh, so I'm not nice.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, what?
I said
no,
most
but here's
people
the
are
thing.
nice.
The thing is, I feel like for me, like, I'll be 43 next month. Like, I'm not going to keep playing games with you. I need to help you. I feel like this is an opportunity for me to coach you through how you get what you want. You're not going to suck up 10 minutes of my time asking me about my son and my life and this and that when I know you don't care. Tell me what it is that you want so we can get to it. Because if I have it, I'm going to give it to you and I'll help you with it, or I'm not.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's almost like it's a coachable moment for people too. So I'm not rude in it. I'm not mean in it.
So do you tell them that?
Yeah. So what I'll do is, like, when someone starts out with, "Hey, how are you?" and a lot of that, and I know they don't really care. Or I'm not even going to make it that harsh to say they don't care. I know that they're doing that because whatever the it is uncomfortable to get to. Mm-hmm. Then I'll just go, "I'm good. I hope you are too. So how can I help you?"
And see, my thing is, so if I'm like emailing or connecting with someone like through like some type of messaging platform, then I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" and I'll get to it. But what I hate is when I'm on the phone or it's like a call and people would start, asking all these random questions, and I be trying to get to it.
Exactly.
I don't be wanting to talk about. I don't want to be checking in.
But that's why I'm saying I think it's an opportunity for you to coach them. I'm like I said.
It also depends on the person.
I don't want it to come across that it's you have to be rude or anything like that. It just be like, yeah, hey, good to hear from you. So what's up?
It just feels disingenuous. It's like
because it is. Because it is. It is.
Like I want you to say what it is. Like,
it is. It's just.
I want to talk about what we need to talk about.
People see through it. So my response to your question, for the people that don't know how to navigate some of that interpersonal conversation, you have to do what comes natural to you, and it's okay to be like, "Good morning. I'm writing you to ask you X, or I'm writing you because of this reason," and then really just get to it. People will respect that. I think most people will respond in a way that either answers the question directly, and even if they feel like, dang, they ain't asked me about a weekend, they might not. They'll get over it.
So actually, this is an example of something that happened to me literally this week. So we're working on getting new board members, for my nonprofit, and it's this one guy that I went to high school with. He was probably about a couple of years older than me, but he runs a super successful company here in the district, and I haven't talked to him in years. And I get on his Instagram and I start writing like, "Hey, it's been a while." Like starting, and I was like, why am I saying all this? Hey, it looks like you're doing well. It looks like you're doing well. I'm glad you're doing well. Like, why am I gonna ask you how you're doing? It look like you're doing well. Right. So I'm like, hey, It looks like you're doing well. Want to see if we got on the phone and talk about, how you can support my organization.
And then because this is somebody that you knew a little, from the past and went to school with or whatever, the rest of that will naturally come. Like, you'll be talking about business or whatever the intent was for your call, but then you'll be like, remember such and such. Like, it might come out naturally or organically, or it won't. But either way, it's okay. Yeah. It's just okay. Like, I feel like the people that spend too much time on the small talk part are wasting space and wasting time. Like, get to your point. Get to what you want out of that person. And you just might get it. You just might get it.
Yeah.
So,
and they may appreciate you not wasting their time more.
Exactly.
Like, time is of essence, especially for successful people.
Right.
And people that are in positions of power, influence, or are doing things. Yeah. Not to say that people who aren't.
Everybody's time is important. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. I feel like I don't care what level, I don't care where you are, I don't care what walk of life you're from. I am going to spend the time and just get right to it, because I know your time is important, my time is important. We need to get right to it. So let's do that. Let's just do that. So
people gonna figure it out.
So like I said, I think the word to the wise is, if you are struggling with what to say, and how to communicate with someone to get information that you want, just ask. Yeah. Don't worry about a lot of that. Just be upfront and just ask. So
be upfront. If you're upfront, then you'll get the best outcome.
Yeah.
And it saves you time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, going through all of these hoops to trying to,
see
how people are doing, and then you end up not getting what you want anyway. And especially if it comes back down to, what we're talking about in relation to, like, pivoting or like making a career shift or figuring out what's next for yourself, like, and you are actually paying a lot of people, you gotta get to it.
Right.
Understand that your time is of essence too.
Right.
Right. Like,
yes.
You don't need all that small talk. I've just never been a small talk person. Like,
right.
I don't really.
But see, okay, so wait, you're not a small talk person, but you've always been a social butterfly.
I am
so
social.
So I'm saying you just kind of, you're not creating a space for small talk. You're just kind of doing it. You know, you're just kind of, it's a part of who you are. Before
slide in, make it natural.
You just kind of naturally do it. So to you, it's not small talk. It's just a part of the talk.
Yeah.
For somebody else, they're like awkwardly trying to figure out like, how do I navigate this? Don't spend the time doing that. Don't spend the time making yourself uncomfortable. You make yourself awkward and uncomfortable, makes them awkward and uncomfortable, and you haven't achieved what you wanted, which was to get some information out of them. Yeah, that's
not it. Well, on that note, that's it. I think we're good for today.
We're out.